There are a number of different methods to growing and developing bonsai, whether it's growing them in a pot like this or developing them in the ground. But keep watching, because I'm going to give you not only the pros and cons of each method, but I'm going to show you some fairly dramatic differences between the two. Bonsai cultivation is an art form that combines horticultural techniques and aesthetic design to create miniature trees that reflect the beauty of their larger counterparts. The development of bonsai can be achieved through various methods, two of which include growing the tree in a pot and growing it in the ground. Let's compare and contrast these methods, focusing on a case study of two crabapple trees of the same age that have been cultivated using these different techniques. We'll explore the advantages and challenges of each method and compare the results. Growing bonsai in a pot. Growing a bonsai in a pot from a young sapling involves meticulous care and attention to detail. Primary focus is on slow and steady growth, promoting ramification or branching, and developing a fine twiggy structure. Controlled environment. The pot provides a confined environment where factors such as soil composition, water and nutrients can be closely monitored and adjusted. This control allows for the precise management of the growth rates and encouragement of desirable traits such as small leaves and dense branching. Root pruning. Regular root pruning is essential in pot cultivation to prevent the tree from becoming root bound and to promote a healthy radial root system. This process encourages the development of fine feeder roots, which are crucial for nutrient absorption and overall tree health. Branch development. In a pot, the growth of branches and twigs is carefully managed through techniques like pinching, pruning, and wiring. These methods help create a well-balanced and aesthetically pleasing structure, essential for bonsai. The main benefits of this approach will be less major cuts and severe wounds on the tree. Limitations. The primary limitation of growing bonsai in a pot is the restricted space, which can slow down the thickening of the trunk and the overall size development. In effect, once a tree is placed into a pot, its development will go into slow motion. As a result, achieving a mature-looking bonsai can take decades. When you put a tree into a ceramic bonsai pot like this, everything that the tree needs for growth and development is suddenly confined and constrained to what's in the pot. That includes the soil, the water, the nutrients, and the physical space for growth. And that is why suddenly the tree's development has gone into slow motion. If your aim is to keep the tree small, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with growing that in a bonsai pot, because that environment will slow down its development and keep that tree on the smaller side. But on the other hand, if your aim is to grow that tree, then this is not the right environment for it. Growing bonsai in the ground. Growing bonsai material in the ground offers a different set of benefits and challenges. This method is often used to accelerate the development of the tree's trunk and overall size before transitioning it into a bonsai pot. Rapid growth. Trees planted in the ground have access to a larger volume of soil, water and nutrients, leading to faster growth rates. This rapid development is particularly beneficial for thickening the trunk and achieving a more mature appearance in a shorter time frame. The trunk is, after all, the literal frame upon which the rest of the bonsai tree is developed, and branching and canopy can often be developed or regrown over a relatively small number of growing seasons. For a tree newly planted or transplanted into the ground, year 1 will be slow as the tree is in shock. In year 2, the roots will begin to develop as the tree gets established, and in years 3 and subsequent years, the tree will begin to put on significant growth. By comparison, for a tree grown in a pot, growth over the same period of time might be negligible. Whilst growth may not have stopped, consider it has been put into slow motion. Root spread. The Nabari describes the root flare at the point where the tree is secured to the ground. It literally grounds the tree and gives it an appearance of maturity and stability. Planting over a buried concrete slab can help control the depth of the root system. It prevents roots escaping downwards, encouraging a shallow radial root spread. This technique is advantageous for bonsai, as it helps create a stable and visually appealing nabari or root flare. It prepares the tree for a life in a shallow bonsai pot. Trunk development. The unrestricted growth in the ground allows for significant trunk thickening. Once the desired trunk thickness is achieved, a significant trunk chop can be performed to reduce the tree's height and promote new branch growth closer to the base, aiding in the construction of a compact bonsai form. Transition challenges. The primary challenge with ground growing is the eventual transition to a pot. Uplifting the tree and adapting it to the confined space of a bonsai pot requires careful planning and execution. The tree must be gradually acclimated to the reduced soil volume, and regular root pruning must be performed to fit it into the bonsai pot. Comparison to examples. This tree is a crabapple, and it's one of a number of trees that I got as cell-grown saplings from the Woodland Trust probably about 5 years ago now. This particular tree was initially grown in a nursery pot and then moved into this bonsai pot, and I put some wire on that to give it a bit of shape, and over time have developed the ramification of the branches on this tree. It's got some slightly unusual looking roots which need some work. This is an example of the coarse growth that you get with crab apples, and it's a bit of a feature of the tree really. But what I want you to particularly note is the thickness of the trunk, and it's maybe pencil thick. Bear in mind this tree has been in this pot now, or in a pot, for about 5 years, and the tree itself is probably about 6, maybe 7 years old. Now let me show you another tree from the same batch. This corner of the garden is my nursery growing bed, and I've actually buried some paving slabs under the soil here, probably about 5 to 6 inches below the level of the soil. And this is where I plant trees to thicken up the trunks. In here I've got this crabapple, which was from exactly the same batch as the one that you've seen already. This tree has been in the ground for perhaps about 3 years now, this being the 3rd year. I have periodically chopped and trimmed the top of this tree, but it's currently about 5 foot tall. And all of these leaves are solar panels feeding energy back in and thickening up the base of the tree. And the plan is to do a severe trunk chop on this in a year or two. What I really wanted to emphasize to you is the thickness of the trunk. And the tree in the pot is about half the thickness of the tree which has been planted into the ground. This crabapple is one of the prizes in my collection, and you can see it's got a thick, gnarly trunk. Now this was almost certainly grown in the ground to develop that trunk thickness. That's not something you could achieve purely by growing this in a pot. Similarly, this is another thick trunked crabapple, and I know that this was grown in the ground for probably about 20 years before it was actually dug up and transplanted into this pot. So if your aim is to grow pencil-thin bonsai trees, then putting saplings into pots is certainly the way to go. But those trees will take decades before they have any look or maturity about them, if they ever actually achieve that. A good bonsai starts with a good trunk. The trunk is the framework on which everything else literally hangs. Nabari. My preferred way to develop nabari is in a wide aerated basket. This develops shallow roots and provides aeration for healthy development. Branches and foliage. This comes with ramification and can be developed once the trunk has been developed to the right stage. Branches and ramification can be built or rebuilt in a short number of growing seasons. Ramification comes from judicious pruning and pinching out or pruning of the growing tips of the branches. That causes back budding and activates latent buds further along the branch to develop and form new branches. It causes a continual subdivision along the branches. Foliage pads. These are a final step in refinement. Once you've got the trunk and you've developed the branches, you can then worry about placement of the foliage. So the vital lesson I want for you to take away from this video is this, that when you put a tree into a pot, you reduce the speed of development of that tree. And that's why you'll hear experienced bonsai growers and developers talk about only putting trees into a ceramic finished bonsai pot once that tree is already refined, because at that stage you're not putting on additional growth on the tree. You're maintaining it at that size and state of development, and you do that by constantly pruning and maintaining the roots, and you're keeping it in a constrained environment where you're controlling the watering and the nutrients and feed on that tree, and that helps maintain it in that particular state. And the mistake that many beginners make is that they'll put an immature tree into a pot far too soon, and the result is that that slows down the tree, and it could be decades before that tree makes for a refined bonsai. So if you want to thicken up your bonsai trees, then I would recommend planting them in the ground, or at the very least in a shallow aerated basket, to help develop those trunks and thicken them up, to give them a more mature look. If on the other hand you're more concerned about refinement and the tree, you're happy with the size of it, but just need to develop branching and ramification, then by all means a ceramic bonsai pot is the right environment for it. So how to improve your bonsai? Pick good starter material. Don't waste time on weak and poor material that's unsuited to bonsai. It's good for learning the basics, but sooner or later you'll want to elevate your bonsai development. Start with the trunk. Get Yamadori or collected trees if you can. Grow your trees in baskets or in the ground to help thicken up the trunk. In year 1, the tree will be in shock and recovering after being transplanted. In year 2, it will be getting more established in its new environment and beginning to send out roots and fattening up. By year 3, the tree starts to run away and growth becomes more rapid. The longer you can leave it to grow in the ground, the better. Allow unrestrained growth and for leaves to develop, since leaves are like solar panels. More leaves means more energy, means more growth. You can cut back that foliage and reshape the tree once you have the trunk to the point that you need it.